You look right. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. We have Sheldon Schaefer, a Illinois Green Party member from Peoria, former co-chair. He's on the coordinating committee here in Illinois, and he's been involved in many great, wonderful things that we're here to talk about. Change Illinois, League of Women Voters. He just talked to today, and we're going to go over that stuff and much more. So, Sheldon, real quick, why don't you tell us about how you got involved in the Green Party in the first place?
Well, in the very first place, it was after Ralph Nader ran in 2000, and I was a strong supporter and local campaigner for Ralph Nader, and he inspired a lot of Green Party chapters across the state to start up, and the one in Peoria, we still have some of the original members from the year I think it was 2000, must have been late 2000, and then got involved in the party in 2001, and been actively involved ever since. More active maybe in some years ago, but I'm still very active in the township advisory question realm, which we've taken some initiatives in.
Okay, very cool. And you were a co-chair before?
I've been a co-chair on a couple of occasions. I'm a two-time candidate for U.S. Congress in the what was then the 18th district on the Green Party ballot line, when the Green Party had ballot access. After Rich Whitney's campaign of 2006, he opened it up for people to run for office in 2008 and 2010. So I ran before they changed the rules to keep independents and third parties from participating in Illinois electoral politics, especially at the congressional level, but it affects all the levels down to, but not nonpartisan races, but all the partisan races were affected over the years. And then I was once a candidate on the Green Party ballot for Secretary of State. So, yeah,
That's
I've
cool.
been around, and
Cool.
I've had family members who were candidates as well. It runs in the
Right on.
family.
Oh, that's great. No, that's great. I can't even imagine anybody in my family wanting to do that in the Green Party, but that's very cool. That's it's so frustrating to hear about these legal blockages for third party candidates to get it. So it's so obviously rigged. And I'm getting, I was listening to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman on the radio, and I can't even do it anymore because they're just so volatile towards third parties, and they don't even understand their attempt to preserve democracy by destroying it in the first place. Is just really something I can't palate anymore. So anyway, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
If there's any outcome of this next election, it might be renewed interest in third parties and independents. And I always say those in league with each other, because
I think that's proper.
Not only is it proper, Illinois electoral law treats us the same.
Okay, well, yeah.
There's no difference between being a third party candidate or being an independent, except the name attached to your campaignship, and then the fact that if you're a campaign naming a party, you may gain ballot access for the next series of elections. If you're an independent, it's a one and done, but it's just as hard for an independent. I say, unless you're fabulously rich, you can't run for office except as a declared party member in the state of Illinois.
Or if your last name is Kennedy. But which equals being rich. But yeah.
Yeah. The only after 2010, when I ran, the only races that weren't affected by the slow change of ballot access requirements was at the top level for president or for governor. It's still 25,000 signatures, which means twice that, because you have to survive challenges.
They're gonna find ways to take names off. Like they just sick their pit bulls on us. It's really
Well,
quite disgusting.
my own name was challenged in the race I was a candidate for.
It's so
And actually
stupid.
thrown out because my signature didn't look enough like my signature.
Oh, well,
So,
there you go. Unbelievable.
talk about a rigged system.
It's unbelievable. Everybody's just like, okay, whatever. Anyway, okay, well, let's talk about Change Illinois then and the other things that you've been involved in. Boy, you want to start there or you want to start somewhere else?
Well, and it actually starts with the township advisory referendum process,
Okay.
which is an interesting process. And Steve Alish, before he retired from the party and other things, he brought to the party awareness of this township advisory referendum process. And it's a relatively simple process to do an advisory referendum at the township level. And it's a three-part process. They've done it a lot in the various townships in DuPage County, some other townships in the collar counties, especially near DuPage, because that's where Steve was most active. He did workshops at our state meetings. And it's a section of township code that you need to get on the agenda. Now, to get on the agenda, you see the signatures on this? That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's the entire signature requirement to get on the agenda.
So it should be.
Yeah, and so I have twice that. But once you get on the agenda of the annual township meeting, or you could work to call it special meeting, but the annual meeting is the second Tuesday of every April, you can present for consideration on the agenda an advisory referendum, and up to three of these can be proposed. Then at the township meeting, the townships may be a sort of old-fashioned and historically original governmental body, but the townships have the last vestige of direct citizen democracy in this state. Because at the township meeting, the people present at the meeting will vote whether to pass, in this case, the advisory referendum proposal onto the voters in the next November election, where all the voters can vote on it in the township, which in the case of Peoria, it's most of the city of Peoria. It's all the original parts of the city of Peoria. It's not a lot of all the new annexations. And the township board is responsible for setting the agenda, but the township board can't actually vote any differently than me. My vote is the same as the vote of a board member. We are members of the township, citizens of the township present at the meeting.
Interesting.
And so there's 10 township board members. I think the city council has 10 members plus the mayor, but one of the city council members lives in the city of Peoria, but it's a new section that's not in the township. So he's not on the township board, just the city council. Okay. But each of the city council members are also township board members. They have the same votes as all the people in the room, or as each of the persons in the room, nothing special. Right. So the citizens present at the meeting vote whether to pass the referendum onto the voters, and it'll appear on the township ballot, which is the standard ballot that everybody will take in November. But the Board of Elections make sure you don't get it if you're not in the township. You don't get this particular question. We did it 2 years ago with the anti-gerrymandering proposal that we should use fair and impartial agencies, or not agencies, but citizens who decide voting boundaries, not the parties. Right. And we borrowed wording from various public bodies that are working on this issue, like Change Illinois and like the League of Women Voters, who want to end gerrymandering. They tried with a state level constitutional amendment, and it never made it to the ballot, and they needed millions of signatures to move it to that stage before it got thrown off. Now, the township level only affects the population of a township, which in our case is, it's a city of 110,000, the registered voters in that city. Some townships are just, 5,000 or 10,000 people or even smaller. And there's, I think, maybe 1,000 townships. But if you could do this in as many townships as possible, you could send a clear, unambiguous message to the state legislature that they need to pursue this or tell us why.
Right.
And so it's not a guarantee. It's only an advisory referendum, but it does send a very clear public signal to the state legislature. And when we did this 2 years ago, our referendum, which made it to the ballot, it passed in the township meeting 27-0 to move it on. All the board members and people present in the room voted for it. When it was presented to the voters, 72% voted yes. We should have fair and impartial agencies created to create legislative districts. Well, we're doing the same thing again in terms of process, but we're doing it with ranked choice voting. And basically, this says, should the state of Illinois, and then we explain a little bit about what ranked choice voting is, should the state of Illinois adopt ranked choice voting for state and federal elections? And with a little bit of inserted wording also to try to explain to voters what ranked choice voting is. Unlike gerrymandering, which is clearly understood, I think, by everybody, ranked choice voting needs some explanation. So Change Illinois has been deeply involved in the campaign against gerrymandering, but they're also working on other fair voting initiatives, such as ranked choice voting. And they held a meeting here in Peoria in this past September and had representatives from Fair Vote Illinois at the meeting. I presented at the meeting about the township process so that others could learn what we in the Green Party already know, because since we can't be involved in legislative races hardly ever anymore unless they're nonpartisan, we still can be involved in nonpartisan initiatives which work on making voting and democracy better, which is certainly one of the very most green things we can do. Sure. And so Change Illinois held the meeting. Fair Vote Illinois was there. The Green Party was there. We were all presenting, and it was wonderful, that Change Illinois asked, because they saw the Green Party doing this, they asked us, and me specifically, since I live here in Peoria, and they were going to hold this in Peoria, to do the presentation. We are a good group to take on these kinds of nonpartisan issues. One, it's very consistent with our values. Two, if these initiatives make it to fruition someday, it will make it possible for us to run for partisan offices too. So there's a very downstream benefit to all of us in working on these kinds of initiatives. So we've had conversations with Fair Vote Illinois. In fact, we work back and forth with them to create the wording for our proposed public advisory initiative. So they've been intimately involved with us. And I think that speaks well for the Green Party. In fact, Anna, our Green Party co-chair statewide, she's been working with Fair Vote Illinois in Chicago, where their main offices are, ever since then. She was at the meeting. Likewise with Change Illinois. These are large, nonpartisan statewide groups that want to improve the electoral process to make it fairer. And if we had ranked choice voting, if we had no gerrymandering, and they're also working on ethics reform as well. But all of these things would work to clean up politics and make it possible for multiple parties to be engaged in the process. Now, one thing Fair Vote learned from us, and they hadn't been as intimately aware and involved in this, is that ranked choice voting in Illinois is meaningless if you can't have multiple party candidates.
Well, absolutely. No, they go together 100%.
They go together. And so they are now totally aware of how independents and third parties can't run for partisan offices in this state.
Right.
And because of the absurd signature requirements. When we were a recognized party and following the same general guidelines and being an established party, I needed 35 signatures to get on the ballot. Today, I would need over 13,000 signatures. And of course, you double it because of challenges. I would need 25,000 signatures. So what do you need? 70 signatures or 25,000? Of course, unless you're fabulously rich and can do thousands of people doing door-to-door campaigns, you can't get that kind of signature response. And even then, it's not easy with gobs and gobs of money and hundreds and hundreds of people. You can't be assured of getting on the ballot with these absurd signature requirements. So our participation with these agencies like Fair Vote Illinois, and which is part of a national agency, Fair Vote, and with Change Illinois, I think really puts us in the mainstream of nonpartisan electoral initiatives.
Okay.
And, you know, sometimes we're seen as sort of a far out group that doesn't relate to average, everyday mainstream voters. Initiatives like this put us in the mainstream, which is where we should want to be seen, that our concerns are everybody's concerns.
Right.
And what's good for us is good for everybody. And so we've been working on this initiative. And then today I had a meeting with the League of Women Voters president. And before I did that, I went to their, I guess, their portfolio of electoral issues where they have active campaigns and positions, all nonpartisan. But ranked choice voting is one of them. Only it wasn't at the tip of their tongues or on the top of their heads, but now it is.
Right.
The same was true actually for the anti-gerrymandering, which was one of the primary things they've been working on. But now ranked choice voting has come to their attention. And so there's a good chance that I'll have a chance to make a presentation to a larger body of them, which again, it's nonpartisan, but everybody knows where I come from.
Yeah, no, for sure. League of Women Voters is actually at least on a local level. Because I've with my radio shows and stuff, I've covered a multitude of different elections. They're a very high profile and powerful political force. At least at the local level. I don't know much beyond that. So yeah, no, that's great. That's great that you were able to do that.
Well, and the other value of a partnership there is when we get down, if we pass this at the township level on April 9th, and I certainly hope we do, and pass it on to the voters through November. Now, unlike for anti-gerrymandering, there'll need to be some public education component. And our green chapter here is just way, way too small to really do that effectively, as are many of the green chapters. But if we're partnering with Fair Vote Illinois and with the local chapter of the League of Women Voters, we have some really strong allies who can help this referendum to pass in Peoria. And Fair Vote Illinois is taking it further, and they have targeted a number of townships in the state where it's not necessarily through the Green Party. I wish it were, but we don't have enough chapters downstate. But they're going to be taking it to voters in numerous townships, so that if we can pass it in all these townships, it will be a much stronger message to the legislature that voters in Illinois really want this. If we could pass this with 60 to 70%, that would be a phenomenal message. If we could pass it with 60 to 70% in 10 different townships, that would be incredible.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And that's where Fair Vote Illinois is going with this. And we're taking the lead on it. And we are the ones who educated them on this township advisory referendum process. And again, I have to thank Steve Hallish because he brought so much of this to us, and it's expanded way beyond DuPage County now into other parts of the political realm. It's just exciting that the Green Party can be engaged in this. And
Yeah, that's very cool.
And, it was almost ironic at the last 2 years ago, the League of Women Voters, and I hadn't contacted them, and that was a tremendous oversight on my part, but they were at the township meeting because they wanted to tell the township board that they were conducting a study of township governance with the intent, perhaps, of eliminating townships as a governmental entity. What?
That's the thing. No. I've interviewed again with my radio shows several township people. Alicia Dodd, who's the Fremont Township Road Highway person. I don't remember the exact title. Crystal Larson, who is the first trans person voted into an office of that tier in Illinois. Avon Township clerk, I believe. But that's always a kind of a pressing issue. Townships are what we had before counties. So a lot of people think that they just need to kind of go away now, that they're irrelevant. Now, they do have specific things that they do that counties don't do. That is true. But people believe that counties can just sort of like take over those duties and get rid of them. I don't know.
Exactly.
What do you think? What do you think that?
Well,
you think it's a good idea? Or?
I understand the overlap. I don't see the townships add a huge administrative expense because they really only have one elected person and a couple of employees, which would probably be there anyway. But the thing I would hate to lose, now that I've discovered it, is this element written into the township code of direct citizen democracy.
That is another thing that they absolutely excel at, is direct democracy. Very much they excel at that above and beyond county, local, state, anything. Like people go there just like you described. Yeah, it's cool.
And the township public advisor referendum process is only written for townships.
Right.
So if you were to get rid of townships, and you'd get rid of this process unless you passed it in to some other level of government. And I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for that to happen. So as I see it, the township public advisory referendum process, which is relatively easy once you understand it, is so valuable that it's worth keeping the townships for just this process. Now, in this process also, I've made acquaintances with the township clerk, because she or he is a important component of this, because that's the person who administers the whole process of getting it to the board to consider for the agenda, checking the names, checking the voters who come into the room at the annual township meeting to make sure they're township residents. And then after the township meeting is the clerk, who then administers it as far as getting it on the ballot through the local board of elections. So he or she, that person, is a critical interface. And now we're on a first name basis. And again, I think it's important to be engaged in government, and not as an adversary or an enemy, but to be engaged in government as an interested and willing partner. And she didn't know about the township advisory referendum process, but I helped her understand it. And now she says, this is so cool. This is a wonderful element of democracy that we have here.
That's great to hear that she was excited about it. It is great. And I think that, there's some logistical issues with this, because the quantity of populations matters a lot when it comes to the efficiency of this. But more things should be, I think, referendum. The Green Party, the National Green Party, kind of identifies itself as like a libertarian socialist party. Now, I'm not sure that every Green Party member would identify as that specifically. I've seen them myriad of different political and economic types, but generally speaking, And one of the things that's cool about libertarian socialism is this idea of like local, of like bringing politics back to local areas and local levels, so that more people can participate in it more efficiently and more readily on an individual level. Because it's just so important, the higher up of a representative of so many people becomes nothing more than an abstract icon, and it's not an actual representative. To represent is to be like the person you represent. So there's no way that one congressman is literally representing 2 million people. It's ridiculous. So all right, that's my little rant there. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and so I guess as far as township governance goes, I originally was a little skeptical, but now that I've discovered the advisory referenda process, and that's been all through the, I guess the organs of the state party. In fact, if one wants to find these resources, can I share screens with this?
If I think so.
Because I was going to take us to the ILGP website.
If you see like the way you're going about it, you give it a shot.
Well, I see present, and I'm just wondering if I click on this thing down here, let me see what happens. Slides or video file or share screen. So there's a share screen function here.
All right.
So what I think I want to do is click on share screen, and it's easiest with 2 monitors, and I don't have 2 monitors. So what I want to do here is, well, let's see how we're going to do this. I can separate. Okay. I'm just thinking out loud here as I try and do this.
Do it. That's fine.
Yeah. I need to create a different website. Now, can you still see me right now?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Then if I go to ilgp.org so maybe if you weren't familiar with this process, okay. Let me share screen. All right, would like to record this computer screen and audio. Oh gosh, I had to do some settings here. Okay, screen recording. Okay, yeah. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far, but. I guess I can't do it. So let me just explain what a person needs to do is go to ilgp.org. And so if I'd had all the right settings in place, I think I could have done this. But it's
let me make a little banner here.
Yeah. So
I'm on my tablet.
Yeah,
so
you go to ilgp.org and you go to resources, I believe. The pull down for resources. Now get involved. Go to get involved. And then you come down to township initiatives. Get involved. And township initiatives. And you are on the page that tells you all about this process. Okay, so you've got it, ilgp.org. Then you go to ilgp.org/township-questions. Okay, so ilgp.org township-questions. And then you find out all about this process.
Okay.
And if you, at the very bottom of this, it says presentation, strategy to place advisory questions on the ballot via annual township meetings. So you click on that link at the bottom of that page, and you get a PowerPoint presentation originally created by Steve Hallish that will take you through this process. And the election code, because one of the things I've done is I'd let all the local officials with whom I'm talking about this process, I let them know the section of the election code. one, it makes it sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know,
Oh yeah,
when
throw
I
up the
cite,
code 73A.7 subtext 3.8.
well, and actually it's section 60, ILCS, Illinois Consolidated Statutes 1/30-10.
There you go.
And section 28-1. These all deal with it. So you can take people to the Illinois Consolidated Statutes, which is an enormous document. You'd never find anything at random there. And you can take folks right to the wording that sets the rules. And so in 2022, when we did this, the town clerk and I worked through all sorts of things on this. Because neither of us was totally clear. I went to the State Board of Elections and clarified some things. We had the confounding problem of an extra election in there that had to be considered. And we both went to the State Board. And so we worked together on this to learn about the process. And again, now I think people are familiar with the process. It hadn't been used for decades. But, you know, we want to use it not every year, maybe. I don't want to be seen as just doing it frivolously. I think it's important that it be done with serious intent. And the strategy should be to engage voters in things that should win. In other words, don't bring controversial topics that you're sure going to lose to this process.
Right.
This process is part of team building and party building and engaging voters to understand what the whole process is. And even though we're not named in this process, again, people sort of know who we are. And it's because we've been involved in things. But you want to pick things that could be clear winners or should be clear winners. And there's plenty of things, for example, in the sections, there's pages in the, not just Change Illinois has issues that we're interested in and engaged in, but Fair Vote Illinois does, and the League of Women Voters all have issues that are part of the Green Party platform. And so that's how you can build partnerships and build collaboratives on these things. And even if we don't do it as a partisan party, we do it as a nonpartisan partner of people who have these political roots, which isn't the way everybody approaches our politics. But I think we should be at least aware of the possibility that we don't have to be out there telling people to burn it all down. Although, you know, I was some of those campus students doing that back in this late 60s.
Well, they're doing it. They're doing it now. There's plenty of people calling to burn it all down.
Yeah, now they're Republicans.
Eco revolutionaries and the right wing. Yeah, absolutely. They're all over the place. Don't think they're not. There's a whole militant Marxist movement upcoming in America that people aren't aware of. The Black Panthers are back, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows that, but they're back. And the White Panthers along with them, by the way. Absolutely.
But I would like to win, and I would
prefer a peaceful transfer to a more legitimate socio-political, economic state than a violent one. But you know, some people don't really want to wait. So let me ask you this before the end of the show. What do you think are some good ways for the Green Party to bring members in? Because I know a lot of people, when I tell them about this show or that I'm a Green Party member, they're like, "Oh, I love the Green Party. I vote Green all the time," but they're not members. Which voting for Green Party candidates is the ultimate goal. So I don't fault them for that. But how do you think that we could create more members?
Well, the township process might be one way.
Okay.
You get together with 6 friends and you can form your own chapter. In other words,
interesting.
I think chapter building with the intent of engaging in the township advisory referendum process would be a good strategy for doing it, because although it's nonpartisan, people can still know who's initiating the initiative, not to be redundant.
No, that's not redundant. It works.
And it's relatively easy. You know, you're petitioning to get on the agenda. You're not at the meeting is where the work is done. And one of the things we learned is that because everybody's vote is equal in that meeting, if there's 10 township board members and you bring 11 friends, even if the board was entirely against it, you could outvote them.
I like that.
Which is a tremendous idea. You know,
that's a very
bring
cool
10
idea.
friends, and even if the board is against it, although, you know, we tried to meet with a few board members beforehand so that they would know what was going on, because really nobody wants to be blindsided. At least I don't think so.
No, I agree. That's one of the things is sort of like this naivete of what counts as, like, you know, policy or law, and I didn't know that. You know, like, well, that's because you're not paying attention. You know.
Yeah, nobody wants to be made to look bad.
No.
Except maybe some Republican candidates whose names I won't say. But
it does seem like they're doing it on purpose, doesn't it? Like, it's just so blatant.
Yeah, but you know, I think, you know, if we want to build, we should work on strategies that win. So you pick winning strategies that have obvious partners in other agencies. And in this case, as I said, Change Illinois has a lot of initiatives that we are 100% in agreement with. Fair Vote Illinois has one issue that should be at the top of our list.
Yeah.
I just love to get rid of the word spoiler factor.
Yeah.
And the League of Women Voters has an amazing array of issues, most of which they're not actively involved in, but they're in their book. And you can find it online.
No, and again, yeah, and don't underestimate the League of Women Voters either. But yeah, I should probably have some like representative on the show. That'd be a great interview. Okay. Note to self. So okay.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. No, for sure. And it actually surprises me a little bit that the Green Party isn't have higher notoriety, isn't higher profile, just because of, like, you know, the society and the world moving towards green solutions for things. Like, it's becoming a bigger deal. The younger generation, which I still think is like kind of like you're talking about strategy, is a demographic we should, I think, attend to more so than we are now. Not that I have numbers, but you know, because like the whole green thing is just now, it's like they grew up thinking like there's climate change, we need to do something about it. You know, for them, it's for most of them. I shouldn't say all of them by any stretch, but it seems like at least generationally, they buy into it. It's happening. We need to do something about it. So, like, you know, you think that there would be we'd be a higher profile amongst them, and maybe we are.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
But you know, so often, you know, if you go to groups like the Sierra Club or go to meetup groups that Democratic Socialists or other groups, they like, well, we like what the Green Party is about, but we hate the spoiler effect. And one, that's a myth, partly, but if we had ranked choice voting, we could explode that by making it a non-issue. So to my mind, working for ranked choice voting is one of the most important things that we as Green Parties should be doing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because that opens the world to us in terms of removing that spoiler effect phrase. Although I studied the effect in the 2020 election, and when so many things were being blamed on Green Party presence. And one thing that, and you know, the broadcast media, even the most politically neutral, still say the spoiler effect. And the leftist comedians still talk about the spoiler effect. But the Washington Post actually did a great study of the spoiler effect. And what they found was that more significant than third parties, at least small third parties' presence on ballots, and nobody ever talks about the libertarians, and they should, because they gain a lot more votes usually than we do at this point in time. Maybe
Right.
not forever, but at this point in time.
Yeah.
But there's something called the undervote. More people voted in the general election, but left president blank, the undervoters, than voted for the Green Party. Now, that's sort of a bad indictment of people voting for Green Party, but we weren't the spoilers.
Yeah.
The undervote was the spoilers.
No, we're not, like, even like, yeah, considering the spoiler effect. I mean, it's what I meant when I said I'm tired of listening to Stephanie Miller and Thomas Hartman, because they just think that we third parties ruin everything. And all they're really saying is that they want us to vote their conscience and not our own, which is ridiculous. They also have this sort of like self-righteous thing that everything they believe about politics is true and everything you think is false, which I don't know anybody who has that perfect of a belief system. And just also the math of when they claim spoiler alert is incorrect. Like you said, like it's like inherent in their own should be that it's good because the Libertarians take so many more votes away from the Republicans supposedly than the Greens take away from the Democrats. So it's actually better for the Democrats to have third parties than it is not to have them. At least at this state, like you said, at this point in time. But that's still not even like the right way, I think, to approach the issue. The issue is that this is a democracy, and if you want a candidate on the ballot, you should be able to have that. And the dual
ranked choice voting would just
ranked choice voting and ballot access. In other words, like, we're one of the reasons I think why we can't get we're not getting our numbers up more rapidly is because we can't get on the ballot. If you put us on the ballot, we're going to win certain offices. We're going to win more and more. It's going to perpetuate. It's going to grow. You can just graph it. And, then we get our names out there and it becomes higher profile. Then people can actually decide for themselves. Approximately 50% of the adult population, a voting population, doesn't even identify politically with either Democrats or Republicans. They're waiting for something else. They really are. We just have to but when the duopoly won't let us on the ballot, what are they supposed to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting, ballot access. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And they have to come together. They have to come together. But I think ranked choice voting has to come first. Because why do you give ballot access if you don't have ranked choice voting yet? You have to do ranked choice voting first. And then you go for the ballot access, because suddenly there's no reason not to. Yeah.
That's very good. That's very well said. No, I had Spike Cohen, the most recent vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, on the show a year ago or something like that. And we spent the hour talking about all these same things, just the obstacles of third parties. Because their Libertarian Party is very pro ranked choice voting, very pro ballot access, getting over those obstacles. So, it's true. I mean, we want to give, the American people more choices. And as Spike said it about himself, and I'm hoping that he was included in the Green Party as well, because we agreed on a lot of stuff, is that we have the better ideas, and that's all there is to it. And so it's our kind of moral duty to get ourselves out there to make sure that people know who we are and that they do have this option.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay.
So let's use the township referendum process to accomplish that first goal. And I think there's where maybe we look for growth, because it's something that we can teach. We can teach you and how to do it in your townships. And you pick a winning issue and you look for partnerships with groups like Change Illinois and League of Women Voters and Fair Vote Illinois, and take this issue, and we can run with it.
I agree. That's awesome. That's a very, very, very well said. And, okay, cool. Thank you so much, Sheldon Schaefer. I appreciate you coming on the show. Anything?
The opportunity.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you back on and maybe give us updates about what's going on in Peoria. Maybe the closer to election day or primary day, we can maybe have you on, or a couple people, and just talk about the candidates and that kind of thing. What's going on? That'd be cool. I'm trying to get Jill Stein on the show. I had Jasmine Sherman, who's a candidate for president, the primary candidate for president for the Green Party. She was great. I'm trying to get Jill Stein on the show. Let's see if she'll come down to my level. Because she's super high profile. Like, so we'll see.
Right.
Which is
Well,
good. Which is good. You know.
The challenge in Illinois is to get those 40,000 signatures, or probably 45,000 would do it.
Interesting.
It's not
yeah,
easy.
Okay. No. 45.
Well, 25,000 plus overage.
No, I know. Even
37,000 was
25,000
not
is
enough.
crazy.
37,000 is not enough because we got dinged with 37,000 once. But 40,000
ridiculous.
should do it. 42,000 should do it. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge, and we need a high-profile, well-organized national candidate to get on in this state because it's been so much harder than it used to be.
No, for sure. All right, very cool, sir. Well, all right, Sheldon Schaefer of Peoria, thank you, sir, for coming on the Illinois Green Party series. Well, I'll be in touch
thank you
soon.
for inviting me.
Absolutely. All right, you came highly recommended. That's what started the whole process. So that's very cool. I'm glad they did that. So thank you everybody for tuning into the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. Till next time, be good, be green. All right, hold on a second. There's a little delay. So